I never thought a normal evening could turn into the night that would haunt me forever. My name is Alec Rose, and if you're listening to me right now, I need you to hear every word carefully, because this isn't just a story. This is my life, and it's the truth I carry like a scar. That day had started so ordinary, almost boring. I had just finished a long shift at work, the kind of day where you count down the minutes until you can finally walk out of the door and breathe fresh air. I remember checking the time. It was a little past 8. The streets outside were quiet, lit only by those yellow streetlights that always seemed to buzz like old light bulbs. My bag hung heavy on my shoulder, my phone deep inside. I didn't even bother pulling it out because I was too tired, too focused on just getting home. I had walked this street 100 times. It was my path, my routine, my safe space. Or at least, that's what I believed. But sometimes, safety is only an illusion you build in your head, and it shatters the moment reality decides to show its teeth. As I walked, I noticed a car creeping slowly behind me. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe someone was just looking for a house number or waiting for someone. But then, it didn't pass me. It stayed there, crawling, like it was watching me. I told myself not to panic. I pulled my jacket tighter and kept walking, my footsteps quickening without me even realizing. My heart, though, it already knew something wasn't right. You know how you can feel eyes on you? That night, I swear I felt it burning into my back. I told myself, "Don't look, Alec. Don't look. Just keep moving." But curiosity and fear are dangerous together. I glanced over my shoulder, just a second, and what I saw made my stomach drop. There was a man inside. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't even pretending to be casual. He was just staring, straight at me. My breath hitched, and I turned back quickly, pretending I hadn't seen him. But I knew. Deep down, I knew this wasn't normal. The street felt longer than usual. Each step echoed louder. The shadows seemed darker. I tried to convince myself, maybe he'll turn. Maybe I'm imagining it. But then I heard it. The sound of the car door clicking open. My body froze for a split second before instinct screamed at me to move. I sped up, nearly tripping over the uneven pavement. I could hear his footsteps now, deliberate and heavy. He wasn't rushing. That was the worst part. He was calm, like he had all the time in the world, like he already knew how this night was going to end. "Hey!" His voice cut through the silence like a blade. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My throat locked up, and my pulse pounded in my ears so hard I thought I might collapse. I just kept walking faster, almost running, clutching my bag as if it could protect me. Then I heard it again. "Hey you! Stop!" Those words, they still ring in my head. Not a request, not a question, a command. And in that moment, I felt so small, like my choices had already been stripped away. I wanted to scream. I wanted to call someone. But all I did was move, faster. My legs felt like lead, but I pushed. That's when I heard the sound that made my blood turn cold. Another pair of footsteps joining his. I didn't know there was a second man until that moment. I had no idea how long he'd been there or where he came from. But now, it wasn't just one shadow following me. It was two. I reached the corner, and for a second, hope flickered. If I could just get to the main road, if I could just find another person, maybe this would end differently. But hope is cruel, because when I turned the corner, the street was empty, silent. No one to help me, no one to even notice if I disappeared right then and there. I could feel tears stinging my eyes, but I swallowed them back, I couldn't brake, not yet. My mind raced. Run, scream, fight. But no option felt safe. If I ran, they could catch me. If I screamed, who would even hear? And fight. 2 against 1? I wasn't strong enough. The sound of their footsteps grew closer, steady, almost taunting. And then, I felt a hand brush the strap of my bag. Just a graze, but enough to send a jolt of electricity through my body. I spun around, my breath coming in sharp gasps. "Leave me alone!" I shouted, louder than I thought I could. My voice cracked, but it cut through the air, sharp and desperate. They didn't answer, just stared. One of them smirked, like this was a game, like my fear was the entertainment. That's when I realized I wasn't just being followed, I was being hunted. I backed away slowly, every step calculated, my eyes darting for an escape. And then, headlights. A car turned onto the street ahead, its beams flooding the darkness. For a split second, relief washed over me. Someone was here. I wasn't invisible. But instead of calling out for help, I froze. My body betrayed me. Fear held me in place, and all I could do was hope the strangers behind me would back off because someone else might see. They didn't move. They just stood there, watching, until the car passed. And as soon as the light disappeared, so did my fragile sense of safety. The street swallowed me again, and so did the danger. And that was just the beginning. The moment those headlights vanished, it felt like the world had betrayed me. For a few seconds, I had clung to that fragile hope that someone, anyone, would notice me, stop, roll down their window, and ask if I was okay. But the car just kept driving. Its lights disappeared into the distance, and I was left standing in the same suffocating darkness, 2 shadows still closing in on me. I swear, in that instant, time slowed down. I could hear my own heartbeat thundering in my chest, faster than my footsteps. My breaths came sharp, ragged, like I was drowning in the open air. And the worst part? They weren't rushing. They were enjoying watching me unravel, feeding off the panic they'd planted in me. I tried to steady my voice, tried to sound braver than I felt. "What do you want?" I asked, though my voice trembled with every word. One of them chuckled, a low, cold sound that sent shivers crawling up my spine. "Relax," he said, his tone dripping with something I can only describe as mockery. "We just want to talk." Talk. That word felt like poison, because I knew they didn't follow me just for a conversation. I clutched my bag tighter and took another step back. The street behind me stretched long and empty, and the more I looked, the more I realized how alone I truly was. Every house I passed was dark, curtains drawn, doors locked. It was like the whole neighborhood had turned its back, leaving me stranded in this silent battlefield. And then, I made a choice. I turned and ran. Not a careful walk, not a quick stride. I ran with everything inside me, the sound of my shoes slapping against the pavement echoing like gunshots. I didn't care if I looked desperate. I was desperate. My legs burned, my chest ached, but none of it mattered. I had to get away. For a split second, I thought maybe, just maybe, I could outrun them. But then I heard it. Their footsteps. Fast now. Aggressive. They weren't playing anymore. The air seemed to grow heavier with every stride. My lungs screamed for air, but I pushed harder. I darted down a side street, hoping to lose them, but the sound of pursuit never left my ears. My mind was a storm of thoughts. What if I fall? What if they catch me? Will anyone find me if I disappear tonight? I turned another corner, heart pounding, when suddenly I collided with something hard. My bag slipped off my shoulder and I stumbled back, nearly falling. For a second, I thought one of them had caught me, but when I looked up, I saw an older man standing there, holding a bag of groceries. Reeds, Leaf washed over me so quickly it almost knocked me over. "Please, help me," I cried, my voice cracking. "They're following me." The man's eyes darted past me, and I could see the concern flash across his face. He glanced at the two shadows approaching, then back at me. For a heartbeat, I thought he'd step in, protect me. But instead, he froze. His grip tightened on his grocery bag, and he whispered, almost too softly to hear, "I don't want trouble." And then, he turned. He walked away. I felt my chest cave in. The only person I'd seen, my only chance at safety, had abandoned me just like that. My knees threatened to buckle, but I forced myself upright. If no one else was going to save me, then I had to save myself. The two men were closer now. I could see their faces under the dim glow of the streetlights. One tall, with sharp features and a smirk that made my skin crawl. The other stockier, eyes cold and calculating. "Why are you running?" the taller one taunted. "We're not going to hurt you." But lies are easy to hear when you already know the truth. I backed away, my hands trembling. "Stay away from me!" I shouted, louder this time, hoping someone, anyone, would hear. No one did. The stockier man stepped forward, and his shadow stretched long across the ground, merging with mine. "You think anyone's coming for you?" he said, his voice low, almost casual. "No one cares." Those words cut deeper than anything. No one cares. I felt something shift inside me then. Not courage exactly, but survival. A raw, desperate instinct that told me I couldn't freeze anymore. I couldn't wait for help that wasn't coming. I had to act. So I did the only thing I could think of. I screamed. Not just a shout this time, but a scream that tore from my throat, raw and piercing, echoing through the empty street. My voice cracked, but it didn't matter. For the first time that night, I wasn't just running. I was fighting to be heard. The men hesitated. Just for a second, but it was enough. I spun around and bolted again, my wings burning, legs threatening to give out. The scream had drained me, but I couldn't stop. Not now. I don't remember how many blocks I ran. The world blurred into a haze of shadows and pavement, my own sobs mixing with the pounding of my feet. All I know is that eventually, I saw it. A small convenience store, its neon sign buzzing faintly. Light, safety, people. I sprinted toward it like it was salvation itself. I burst through the doors, gasping for air, tears streaking down my face. The clerk behind the counter looked up, startled, as I collapsed against the counter. "They're outside," I managed to choke out, pointing toward the door. The clerk's eyes widened. He glanced toward the glass windows, then quickly reached for the phone. "Stay here," he said, his voice firm but calm. "I'm calling the police." I turned, trembling, expecting to see the men looming outside. But when I looked through the glass, the street was empty. They were gone. But the fear? The fear didn't leave. It sat heavy in my chest, deeper than any wound. Because even though they'd vanished into the night, I knew this wasn't over. And I was right. That night wasn't just about a chase. It was the beginning of something far darker, something that would change my life forever. When the clerk said he was calling the police, I thought it was over. I thought finally I was safe. I sat there on the cold tile floor, shaking so hard I could barely breathe, tears blurring my vision as I tried to convince myself it was done. The men were gone. I was inside. Someone believed me enough to dial for help. But safety is never that simple. Not for me. The clerk kept glancing at me while speaking into the phone. I caught pieces of his words. Young woman, chased, 2 men, outside the store. His voice was calm, steady, like this was just another call, like he hadn't just watched me collapse in terror. He hung up and said the officers would arrive soon. He tried to smile at me, but it didn't reach his eyes. Minutes crawled by, each second stretching long and cruel. I stayed close to the counter, clutching my bag to my chest like it was the only thing keeping me tethered to this world. Every time the doorbell jingled as another customer entered, I jumped. My body wouldn't stop trembling. Finally, flashing lights cut across the windows. Red, blue, red, blue. My heart skipped. Relief washed over me, so strong it made me dizzy. I stood, trying to steady myself. They were here. The nightmare was over. Or so I thought. 2 officers walked in, their uniforms crisp, their expressions unreadable. They scanned the store quickly before their eyes landed on me. One of them, taller, with a stern jaw, stepped closer. "You the one who called?" he asked the clerk. The clerk nodded and gestured toward me. "She came in," said 2 men were following her, looked serious. The officer turned his gaze to me. I opened my mouth to explain, but the words caught in my throat. My voice cracked as I tried to speak. "They were outside. They followed me. I didn't know what to do. Calm down," the officer interrupted, his tone sharp, almost impatient. "Take a breath. Start from the beginning." I tried. I really did. I told them everything, from the car creeping behind me, to the footsteps, to the moment I screamed, to running into the store. My hands shook as I spoke, but I forced myself to keep going, desperate for them to understand the terror I'd felt. When I finished, silence hung heavy in the air. The officers exchanged a look I couldn't read. Finally, the shorter one shrugged. "So, nobody touched you?" I blinked, confused. "No, but they were chasing me. They tried to grab me." The taller officer tilted his head. "But they didn't, right?" His words stung like a slap. I felt my stomach twist. Does it matter? I was terrified. They were following me for blocks. If I hadn't made it here... "Ma'am," he cut me off, voice flat. "Do you have any proof? Any evidence these men were actually threatening you?" Proof. Evidence. My chest tightened. How do you prove fear? How do you prove the weight of eyes burning into your back? The sound of footsteps chasing you? The brush of a hand on your bag? I stammered. "They were right there. You could have seen them. The clerk saw..." But when we all turned, the clerk raised his hand slightly. "I didn't actually see the men," he admitted quietly. "She just ran in, said they were outside. When I looked, the street was empty." My knees nearly buckled. Empty. Of course it was empty. They were gone by the time I got here. And now it was just my word against nothing. The shorter officer sighed, jotting something in his notepad. "Look, we'll circle the block, see if anyone's hanging around." But without a description, Without evidence, there's not much we can do. Not much we can do. Those words dug into me like knives. After everything, the chase, the screams, the terror that had nearly broken me, the system, the people I thought would protect me, reduced it all to nothing. Tears blurred my vision again. So, what? You're just going to leave? Pretend this didn't happen? The taller officer's eyes softened just slightly, but his tone stayed firm. Go home. Lock your doors. If anything else happens, call us again. Go home. As if my home could erase what had just happened. As if locking a door could silence the footsteps that still echoed in my head. They left, their radios crackling, their boots heavy against the tile. The flashing lights faded, and once again, I was left in silence. I felt hollow, betrayed, more alone than before. Because now I knew, not only was I hunted in the dark, but if the hunters ever came back, no one was going to save me. The clerk offered me water, but I couldn't drink. My throat was too tight, my hands too shaky. Eventually, I picked up my bag, muttered a weak "thank you," and walked out of the store. The night air hit me like ice. Every shadow looked alive. Every sound made me flinch. I wrapped my arms around myself and walked quickly, head down, heart still racing. I don't even remember the streets I took. I just remember moving, praying, whispering in my head, "Please, God, just let me get home." And I did. Somehow, I made it. I locked the door behind me, slid down the wall, and broke. The sobs came hard, uncontrollable, my body shaking with the weight of everything I'd held in. I cried until my chest hurt, until there were no tears left. But the fear didn't end when I locked that door. It followed me inside. It curled up in the corners of my room, whispered in the silence, and reminded me again and again. No one believed me. No one cared. That night was supposed to end when I got home, but it didn't. Because what happened next proved the officers were wrong. It wasn't over. The men weren't gone, and I was about to learn just how far this nightmare could go. I thought getting home would be the end of it. I really believed if I could just cross that threshold, lock the door, and hide inside my little apartment, everything would stop. The world would stay outside and leave me alone. But the moment I sat on the floor, back against the door, the silence wasn't comforting anymore. It was heavy, pressing in on me, like the walls were listening. My breath still came in short bursts. I tried to steady it, counting slowly, the way you're supposed to during a panic attack. In, out, in, out. But my body didn't believe me. I dragged myself up and went to the window, peeking through the blinds. The street below was empty, just a couple of cars parked under the flickering streetlight. No movement, no shadows, no proof. My phone buzzed in my hand, but when I looked at it, there were no notifications. My hands were trembling so much I almost dropped it. I didn't want to call anyone. I didn't want to hear someone else tell me I was overreacting. So I just went through the motions, kicked off my shoes, locked every window, checked the closet, the bathroom, the tiny kitchen. Nothing. All clear. It should have been enough. I sat on the edge of my bed, still in my work clothes, staring at the dark corner of the room. Every sound felt louder than it should. The hum of the fridge, the pipes in the wall, even my own heartbeat. But then I heard something that didn't belong. A soft knock, not on the door, on the window. My stomach flipped. I froze, every muscle locking up. It was so faint I thought maybe I'd imagined it. But then it came again. 2 slow, deliberate taps. I crept toward the window, moving as quietly as I could, my breath shallow. I didn't want to look, but not looking was worse. I lifted one slat of the blinds with my finger. Nothing. The street below was still empty, the same parked cars, the same flickering light. But I couldn't shake it. The sound had been real. My skin prickled, and I backed away from the window. My phone was still in my hand. I pulled up the number for the station the officers had come from but didn't press call. What would I even say? "Hi, remember me? The girl you didn't believe? Well, now there's a sound outside." They'd laugh, or worse, they'd send no one. The third tap came louder this time, sharp enough to make me jump. My phone slipped from my hand and hit the floor. I forced myself to look again, pulling the blinds all the way up. There, across the street, under the broken streetlight, was a figure. It was too far to see a face, but the shape was unmistakable, tall, still, watching. My heart hammered so hard it hurt. I couldn't breathe. I stumbled back, grabbing my bag like it could shield me, my mind screaming, "Not again, not again, not again." Then my phone buzzed on the floor. A message from an unknown number. "Nice place you got here." I felt the blood drain from my face. My knees went weak, my vision blurred. Somehow, through the terror, I picked up the phone with shaking hands, staring at the text. Another one came. "Why'd you run? We just wanted to talk." No name, no emoji, just words. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I wanted to scream at them, call them monsters, tell them I was calling the police. But what if answering made it worse? What if not answering did? I backed up until I hit the wall and slid down, curling into myself. Tears ran hot down my cheeks. I tried to think. I tried to plan. But my mind was a blur of panic and rage. Finally, I typed 3 words. "Leave me alone." I hit send. My thumb trembled as I waited. No response. For a long minute, nothing happened. I started to think maybe I'd scared them off. Then a new message appeared. "See you soon, Alec." They knew my name. The phone slipped from my hand. My body went cold. All the fear from earlier came rushing back, multiplied by 100. They weren't just strangers on a street. They knew who I was. They knew where I lived, and the police didn't believe me. I scrambled to the window again, but the figure under the streetlight was gone. Vanished. I locked the window, pulled the curtains closed, and grabbed a chair to wedge under the door handle. My breathing was so loud it echoed. All night, I sat there, knees to my chest, phone clutched in my hand, staring at the door. Every creak of the building made me flinch. Every car that passed outside made my heart race. But the texts didn't stop. They came slowly, one at a time. Little things. Descriptions of my apartment, the color of my curtains, a photo of my front door taken from outside. By dawn, I hadn't slept at all. My body felt like a live wire, buzzing with exhaustion and terror. I knew I couldn't stay there. I needed to do something. But I didn't know what. Because if the people who are supposed to protect you don't believe you, and the ones who hunt you know your name, where do you go? Who do you turn to? I looked at the last text again. "See you soon, Alec." And for the first time since this began, I realized something. This was random. This wasn't just 2 men following a girl home. This was a plan. And I was the target. I don't think I've ever felt that kind of exhaustion before. The kind where your whole body shakes, but your brain won't stop spinning. It was early morning, pale light creeping through the edges of the curtains I'd yanked shut hours ago. My phone was still in my hand. my fingers stiff from gripping it all night. I kept staring at the last message, as if maybe, if I looked long enough, it would disappear. But it didn't. I stood up slowly, my legs numb. My apartment felt like a cage now. Every corner looked like a hiding place for something waiting to jump out. I knew I couldn't sit here another night waiting for another message or knock. I had to do something. The first thing I did was take pictures of everything. The texts, the unknown number, even the street outside through a tiny crack in the curtains. My hands were trembling, but I forced myself to be steady enough to capture it all. Proof. Real proof. If no one believed my words, maybe they'd believe the images. I tried calling the number, straight to voicemail, a deep, mechanical voice telling me to leave a message. My own voice cracked as I said, "Stop. Stop doing this. I'm calling the police." I hung up, my heart pounding. Then I called a friend. Actually, more like my only friend who'd still pick up at this hour. Janelle. She lived 2 subway stops away. I didn't even realize I was crying until I heard her voice. "Alec? What's wrong?" I couldn't even speak for a second. Then everything poured out. The men, the following, the texts, the photo of my door. My voice came out in bursts, shaky and uneven. "Stay where you are," she said finally. "I'm coming over, right now." "No!" The word came out louder than I meant. "Don't. Please don't come here. They know where I live. I don't want you caught in this." There was a pause. "Then come here," she said firmly. "Right now. Pack a bag. I'll meet you at the station. And Alec, bring the messages. Bring everything." Her steadiness cut through my panic like a blade. I hung up, my chest rising and falling like I'd just run a mile. I stuffed some clothes, my charger, and my ID into a backpack. My hands were moving faster than my brain, just shoving things in. When I stepped out into the hallway, every sound echoed like a gunshot. My heart thudded in my throat. I locked the door behind me, double-checked it, then triple-checked it. The stairwell smelled like damp concrete. Each step down felt like a choice. Go back up, lock myself in, or keep going. At the bottom, I pushed the door open slowly and peered out. The street looked normal. People walking dogs, someone jogging, a delivery truck, just a regular morning. It felt unreal, like I was stepping into a movie set after the actors had gone. I started walking fast, head down, scanning every reflection in every window I passed. My phone buzzed once in my pocket. I didn't look. I couldn't. The subway station was only 3 blocks away, but it felt like miles. My palms were slick with sweat. Every time someone walked behind me, I sped up. Every time a car slowed near the curb, I felt a surge of panic. At the entrance to the station, Janelle was waiting. She looked around nervously before she saw me. When our eyes met, I nearly broke. She grabbed my shoulders and whispered, "It's okay. You're okay. Come on." We got on the train, sitting side by side in the corner. I finally showed her the messages. Her face went pale as she scrolled. "This is..." she started, but stopped. "We're going to the precinct near my place," she said instead. "They'll have to listen." I wanted to believe her. I really did. But the moment we walked into the precinct, the same heavy smell of coffee and paper hit me, and my stomach dropped. A young officer at the desk listened as we explained everything. He looked at the texts. He frowned, then shrugged. "Could be a rank, he said. "A prank?" My voice cracked. "Someone followed me home. They're sending me photos of my door. They know my name." He shifted uncomfortably. "I'm just saying, without a clear threat or a suspect, There's not much we can do right now. You can file a report, though. I felt Janelle squeeze my arm, a silent plea not to explode, but my whole body was shaking with rage and fear. So if something happens to me, I said, my voice rising, will you help then? The officer looked down at his paperwork. Ma'am. I turned away before I could scream. Janelle guided me out, her arm around me. Outside, the air felt colder. They're not going to help, I said. My voice was flat now. The panic drained into something harder. No one's going to help. Janelle looked at me carefully. Then we help ourselves, she said. Her words landed like a spark. All at once, my fear started to shift, harden into something else. I wasn't just prey anymore. I couldn't be. I opened my phone, staring at the unknown number. My thumb hovered over it. A part of me wanted to throw the phone into the nearest trash can and disappear. But another part of me, the part that had survived last night, wanted to look them in the eye, to find them, to make them regret this. I saved the number to a new contact. Unknown. Then I started a new file on my phone. Screenshots, audio recordings, notes about every time, every place, every message. Proof. If no one else was going to build the case, I would. And as the train carried us away from my neighborhood, away from the broken streetlight and the silent figure, I felt a flicker of something I hadn't felt since this started. Not safety. Not yet. But resolve. Because whoever they were, whatever they wanted, they'd made one mistake. They thought I'd stay scared.
Think about it. Could this happen to you? Some stories aren't just heard, they're felt. Behind every truth, there's a hidden fear. This story won't just shake your mind, it'll haunt your soul. Who could imagine the truth would be this terrifying? The story ends, but the questions stay alive.